What's going on? It's the fellas from Three and Out coming back at you with another video. Today we have a little bit of Heisman talk. This video idea is courtesy of Mr. Film Stocked himself. So shout out to him. We've had a little discussion on this topic a week or two ago, and we're going to dive a little more into it. So basically what the idea is, there's three groupings of Heisman winners, each with three Heisman winners in each group. And the idea is you pick one of them who you would want to build a team around in today's college football. And for clarity, it's their best season. So they're them at their peak of their Heisman season.
Yep.
You know. So yeah, we're gonna run through these few groups. But just before we get into it, if you like what you see, be sure to like, subscribe. We're coming up on 500. It's been a goal of ours for a while, so if you're here, thank you very much. And yeah, we appreciate you. But just getting straight into it, this first one we talked about a little bit, and I don't remember if everybody's opinion was the same or not. This one, I think, was a little more skewed towards the same opinion, but we'll run through it again. So the first grouping, you have Tim Tebow, Cam Newton, and Jameis Winston. Who would you want to build a team around?
So Tim Tebow, Cam Newton, and Jameis Winston?
Mm-hmm. Out of those three.
Okay. Noah, you sound like you were locked and loaded.
I am
locked and loaded. I was just confirming the grouping, so please go ahead.
I have a very strong opinion about this one.
Okay.
I do as well.
It's Cam Newton. It's Cam Newton. Because you take a look at that season, and in particular that Auburn team, without Cam Newton, they would be scraping for bowl eligibility. Cam Newton had probably the most dominant season that we have seen from a quarterback in the modern college football era. You pull up YouTube right. Actually, don't click off this video yet. Don't do it. But after this video,
When you get finished watching,
yes, when you get finished with this video, like and subscribe, and then search Cam Newton Heisman season Auburn highlights. And you'll see some of the most electrifying runs you have ever seen in your life. I think it's a shoo-in, honestly. No disrespect to the other two men on this list, but it's Cam Newton every time. I'm sorry.
yeah.
So according to Google and Heisman.com and AuburnTigers.com and BleacherReport.com. So I just went through because I'm not going to lie, off the rip, I feel like the obvious answer is Cam Newton because you take Tim Tebow off the Florida Gators, they probably still at least make the SEC championship game. You take Jameis Winston off of the Florida State Seminoles, they probably still make the ACC championship game. But you take Cam Newton off of the Auburn Tigers, and like Noah said, they're scraping by for bowl eligibility. But I did just want to look up the facts and figures to make sure that what we're saying is correct. So, Tim Tebow, in his Heisman season, threw for 3,100 yards, 29 touchdowns, only 6 picks. He rushed for 828 yards, and had 22 rushing touchdowns. So, as far as touchdowns accounted for, that man accounted for 51 touchdowns. Not by himself, but he accounted for 51 touchdowns. Cam Newton had 2,800 yards, 30 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions. He also accumulated He also accumulated almost 1,500 yards on the ground and had 20 touchdowns on 264 attempts. And he also caught 2 passes for 42 yards and a touchdown.
That's
if you look
insane.
at just the passing yards, Tim Tebow does have the edge by almost 300 yards. Tim Tebow has 1 less passing touchdown and more rushing touchdowns. So that's a feather in Tim Tebow's cap compared to Cam Newton. And let's go on to Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston in 2013 threw for 40 touchdowns and over 4,000 yards. I don't have his rushing yards in front of me at the moment. But he's the only one to break the 4,000-yard mark through the air. So, but to be fair, I think that they didn't really need to rely on his legs a little bit. I think that was more of a passing offense, and then, if they're going to run the ball, he's going to hand it off. Whereas Tim Tebow and Cam Newton were more dual threat. A lot of people would argue Tim Tebow was a running back who could throw the ball.
Taysom Hill. I said
exactly.
it. I said it.
No,
Taysom
man.
Hill.
Tim Tebow walked so Taysom Hill could run for like 2 seasons.
Just against the Falcons. Only against the Falcons.
I remember the glitch in like fantasy football where you could put Taysom Hill at like your flex and he would get tight end points and quarterback points and whatever position he was decided to get put at that day.
I did it.
But anyway,
guilty as charged.
100%.
I did it.
If you didn't, you're an idiot. So anyway, yes. So Jameis Winston was the only one to break the 4,000-yard marker through the air. However, if you combine Cam Newton's rushing yards and passing yards, he had, 3,000 plus 1,500 would have been 4,500 yards. Just under 4,500 yards total. And then Tim Tebow was chilling right at 4,000 all in all through the air and with his legs. So they're all about the same as far as yardage production. And then touchdowns. Sorry, guys. Did not come prepared.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Come on, our stats guy isn't prepared.
Hey, you know I'm the schedule guy and vibes guy. You know I'm not the stats guy. But yeah, 40 touchdowns, and then, damn, Cam Newton had 60 touchdowns. That is crazy. And then Tim Tebow had 29 plus 22. I already did that math. It's 51.
I count it.
So I think Tim Tebow slightly... Shut up. I think Tim Tebow slightly edges out Cam Newton on touchdowns, but Cam Newton has the most yards produced. But again, so I think you're splitting hairs there. Yards, touchdowns, and I believe all of these teams went undefeated, so you can't really compare records. I guess you could look at strength of record, but we are not a statistics YouTube channel. We do not know ball. We are going off of vibes. I think going back to what Noah said earlier and what I echoed, I think just based off of the weapons around him, Cam Newton was that guy. He only attended Auburn for like 6 months, and I'm just saying. The man came in, balled out, won a Heisman, won a national championship, and then never attended a class. That is a true baller.
That's the way to do it.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
We're here to play football. We're not here to play school.
I'm an athlete. Student athlete is not part of the equation.
Yeah.
But Brandon, what are your thoughts, man? I'm sorry. I feel like I kind of rambled.
I'm going to sound like a
bit.
broken record here. I mean, look, Cam Newton, Tim Tebow, Jameis Winston. No offense to Jameis Winston, but this is a two-man race here, and I don't necessarily think it's even that close between Cam Newton and Tim Tebow. I personally think that the season that Cam Newton had, you can't go any other way. I think Cam Newton did what Tim Tebow did. Better.
Yeah.
But better. He was a better version. I mean, it was a hell of a year. It's unbelievable stuff. You read off the stats.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And, I mean, I think that's the obvious answer there, and I think that's the most obvious answer in any of these groupings.
Because, I mean, if you take Cam Newton and you give him either the 2007 or 2008 Florida Gators, I can't remember which year this was. It's 2007. If you give him the 2007 Florida Gators, they're putting up 55 points a game. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You give him the 2013 Florida State Seminoles, same thing. Like, I just, it is what it is. It was a one-man show. No disrespect to anybody else in that Auburn Tigers team in 2010, and also the meteoric rise that team took. They were unranked preseason. They had this kid from some JUCO somewhere that used to be a backup at Florida behind Tim Tebow coming in at quarterback. and all of a sudden they just became the most unstoppable offense in the country for 4 months.
No, crazy stuff. And I think he's up there in the bigger Heisman conversation of all time even, or at least this side of the century. But that's another video. Anyways, moving on to the next grouping, which I believe will be a little more polarizing. We're not going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya here, I don't think, entirely. So in the second grouping, Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. Who you got?
Why don't you go first?
You go first.
I'm gonna talk my way through it because I haven't figured this one out
processing
yet.
I feel like
I think this one is slightly different than what we had because this is a little tougher.
You said Caleb,
Because I remember
Kyler, and
when we
who?
were talking about
Lamar.
it. Caleb, Kyler, and Lamar.
Thank you.
I know when we were talking about it, there was a grouping with Caleb Williams that I think Noah and I agreed on Caleb Williams for. But I don't think that grouping had Lamar Jackson in it.
Yeah.
Because he had a special year at Louisville. He did it all. I mean, team wins aren't a quarterback stat. That Louisville team didn't do anything special. But you could say the same thing about USC. You know, they made it to their conference championship the year they won the Heisman, but they lost. I think Kyler here is getting a little lost for me. I think for me it's between Caleb and Lamar.
It's okay to be wrong. It's okay.
Yeah, because we have the Kyler Murray sympathist over here. I do remember that.
It's not my turn to talk.
It can be your turn to. I haven't made a. I'm not making a final decision right now.
Wow.
Please, persuade.
Oh, Jesus. That's funny. Oh, finally, someone I can trust, ESPN. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Stats.
I know.
God. I mean, I don't know, man. I think the thing about Caleb Williams is that, and, you know, from an outside perspective, the NFL career shouldn't matter, but I feel like it does kind of skew it at least a little bit because these guys are more recent. With the last one, we're talking about historic Heisman winners with historic seasons and legacies that are cemented. Caleb Williams won the Heisman 2 years ago, right? And then obviously Kyler and Lamar are a little closer to each other in proximity.
Yeah.
Does it?
I don't know, man. I think with Lamar, his recent success in the NFL is kind of playing into it for me because he's sneaky here.
Does it help or hurt if I say that Lamar Jackson is the youngest Heisman Trophy winner in the history of the trophy? He beat Jameis Winston by 5 days.
Damn.
5 days.
He was 19 years of age, 337 days.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
I didn't know he was 19. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
He was a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
That's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if it does help or hurt because if you're talking about building a team around, you could make an argument that maturity is part of it. And not to say he wasn't a very, very mature 19-year-old, but
Almost 20.
experience and all. I don't know. Drew, convince me.
So, I am not going to say who my answer is because I think in the past 2 sentences I've said, no, could you get your dog to shut the hell up?
I know, I'm sorry.
No, she's adorable. It's okay.
I guess it's playtime. It's
Playtime, yeah.
She heard we were
Hey,
talking about
playtime
Lamar
is
Jackson. She got excited. So.
Yeah, she got the happy feet.
Yep.
But no. So I think I had contradicted myself the past 2 times I've spoken, so I'm just going to go with facts here. All right? Caleb Williams threw for 4,075 yards with a national co-leading 37 touchdowns with just 4 interceptions. I don't have any... Oh, here we go. He also had... Wait, what the fuck? Okay. Yes. As far as rushing yards, not really anything crazy to write home on.
They didn't use him on the ground.
No. He did
That wasn't
have
part of the game.
he did have
They spread
10
him out.
he did have 10 touchdowns though. Rushing.
I mean, he's a sneaky.
A sneaky scrambler.
He is. He's quick.
So all in all, he accounted for what did I say? 10 touchdowns on the ground and
47?
7 touchdowns through the air. So that beats everybody on the prior grouping as far as touchdowns go. However,
Yeah.
this is the
college football offenses have come a long way.
and this is also the Pac-12, so we got to take
Yeah.
that into account. Everybody we talked about earlier was in the SEC or a time where the ACC also had very solid defenses. However, Kyler Murray threw for over 4,000 yards and 42 touchdowns, and also rushed for over 1,000 yards and had 12 rushing touchdowns. That is a hell of a season for the short king. And then Lamar was definitely, like I said, was the youngest Heisman Trophy winner. I don't know if that's to date, but off the top of my head, I don't think there's been any other
I don't think
teenagers
there's been anybody else that's.
that would even come
been
close.
that
I mean,
young.
I think Joe Burrow won the Heisman. He was like 24.
He was old.
Yeah. I think when he entered the league, I think him and Lamar are the same age, which is crazy.
It could be.
But anyway, he accounted for 4,928 yards of total offense. That is the second best in Heisman Trophy history. He accounted for 51 touchdowns, which ties him with Tim Tebow for third on the all-time Heisman chart. He is the first player to win the Heisman with at least 31 touchdown passes and at least 21 rushing touchdowns. He ran for 1,500 yards, which is the most ever by a Heisman-winning quarterback. So, with all that being said, Lamar had a fucking year, didn't he?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think the introduction of Lamar into the mix makes things more interesting.
It really does. It really does. He had almost 5,000 yards, and he accounted for however many touchdowns I just said, 51. The problem is Kyler Murray beat him in both yards and touchdowns, in my opinion. Well, not in my opinion. Fact.
That's a fact.
That's a fact, which, in my opinion, would put him above Lamar. And then Caleb Williams, like I said earlier, I kind of discounted his numbers based on who he was playing against. But with all that being said, let me go back here. Yeah, he had 37 passing touchdowns and 10 rushing touchdowns. So I think if you want me to rank them, I'll do it. I think it goes Kyler, Lamar, Caleb. My humble opinion. I think the fact
He's
that
not high on Caleb Williams.
I am not high on Caleb Williams. I think I've made that very clear with the time I've spent on this YouTube channel. I think a lot of his numbers are Mickey Mouse because he's playing against the fucking Southern California School for the Blind and Deaf on defense. And, yeah.
And he paints his nails.
Oh,
Ew.
brother.
Ew! No. In all seriousness, I think as with the last discussion, I think it's a two-man race. Excuse me. And I think statistically and just how, like, the success of the team went, I do think you've got to give it to Kyler. Because I can't remember which one of y'all said it earlier. I think it was Brandon. But team wins aren't really a quarterback stat. I kind of disagree with that. I think the quarterback has a lot to do with how the team plays. Over the course of Kyler's career, and especially in his Heisman season, Oklahoma did much better than Louisville did when Lamar was invited to New York in December. So that's my piece. Those are my thoughts. Y'all feel free to dish it out here.
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet here. I think I disagree, and here's why. Lamar, electric. And yeah, you brought up team success. ACC, that was like prime Clemson that season.
Which he lost to, but okay.
Yeah, which he lost to in a crazy game. That was Deshaun Watson, quarterback at the time. I think if Lamar had the team that Kyler Murray did, we'd be having the same discussion. Like if that Louisville team was in the Big 12, they would have made the playoff. I think all things considered, Lamar Jackson's more electrifying. Lamar Jackson, just the vibes. 8 is a cooler number than 1. I'm sorry. But
He's got the old
it's just for me it's I don't know. Thinking about this part of it, what factors into this is the memorability of the season. I just remember Lamar Jackson absolutely torching teams with his arm and with his legs. And like, no offense to Kyler Murray, he did it too, but I don't know. That it just felt more significant, you know? Do you get what I'm saying at all? I don't know.
I think if I'm trying to put myself back in that era of college football, I think Lamar Jackson was viewed as like the come out of nowhere, just freak athlete that just scored points, was able to do it with his arm and his legs. So I get what you're saying. And I think Kyler also gets hurt by the fact that he had just one of the best to ever do it as an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying. So yes, please carry on.
I'll just wrap it up by saying, you know, I think his talent transcends the system, and I say that a little less confidently about Kyler Murray. Obviously, both guys are uber talented, but you know, Lamar is the system.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Valid. I think this is my argument. So you look at their numbers, Kyler Murray has a slight edge. My thing about Kyler Murray is, as a quarterback in college football in that time, I would be hard-pressed to place Kyler in a better situation for success. The offense was built around him. It's to his play style, airing out, slinging around the yard. Great offensive minds there. I think it was very tailor-made for him. And he was obviously very successful. With Lamar, I'm not saying they didn't focus the offense around him, but he obviously didn't have the same weapons. He didn't have the same offensive minds. I think my thing is, with the stats being so similar and the disparity in that respect, I think Lamar Jackson in college in a system like Kyler had would have been insane to think about.
I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
So, in that 2016 Clemson-Louisville game, the Watson versus Jackson showdown, could you guess how many touchdowns each quarterback accounted for?
I think it was like 5 each or something like that. It was something crazy.
Okay. Brandon?
Brother, I don't remember the final score of that game. I couldn't tell you.
It was
but
4.
I'm
Okay,
sure
yeah. If I tell you it was 42-36, does that help?
Oh, I mean, almost all of. I would imagine it was mostly accounted for the scoring of each team.
Sure. Deshaun Watson went 20 for 31 for 306 yards with 5 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson went 27 for 44 with 295 yards and 1 touchdown.
Look at rushing.
He has 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah. Okay. You're trying to shake the argument in your favor. You asshole. Fuck you.
Oh, that's good.
I can't debate this man. I can't debate this man. What the fuck?
Oh, fuck me. Yeah, no, he had 162 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. But that's 3 versus 5, guys. Like, I think we remember that game being like 51-52 and both
I think it was
guys,
a first half game. I think you're right.
the box score was, God bless freaking America, don't do this to me. Whatever. Yeah, it was. Clemson had 28 at halftime. So, do with that what you will. But yes, Lamar definitely did better with his legs, but I think Deshaun Watson won that handedly. Now, to be fair, Deshaun did also have 3 picks, which is not a Lamar statistic. That is a defensive statistic. I don't know why you're saying suck it to me. That has nothing to do with Lamar
I'm
Jackson.
just saying.
I'm just saying Lamar.
I can cherry pick stats too. You want me to go pull up some Kyler Murray box stores?
Go for it. We got time.
No, I'm not doing that.
You're controlling when we hit record and when we hit stop. This episode can be as long as you want it to be.
We'll be here all week.
We are disrespecting Kyler Murray, and I will not stand for it. That man is a freak.
He's dying on the Kyler Murray hill.
He is a freak of nature. If he didn't discover video games as a professional athlete, oh my God. If this man had a few more inches, don't get me salivating.
It's funny. I was thinking the same thing. I'm serious. I think that's part of what discounts him even today. I mean, and it's a real thing in the NFL. You got to be able to. And I mean, look, with his mobility, it doesn't come into play as much,
Right.
but it's definitely still a concern. You got small hands, and you can't see over your offensive lineman. But he's obviously learned to play around that.
Yeah.
You get a higher release point on the ball.
Yeah. To be fair, I mean, he's also kind of quiet quitting, right? I mean, he's the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. Who the hell wants to be the quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals? Respectfully.
Nobody.
Respectfully, even.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. I agree to disagree. I think it's a tight race on that one. I will say it's close. It is close for me.
So is it officially 2-1?
Yeah.
I got one for each of you. Line up. Fucking A. All right.
fuck
I'm glad we're not
yourself.
monetized because this video definitely would not be that.
What's that?
That's fair.
I said I'm glad we're not at the point where we can be monetized because even if we were, this video would not be that.
No.
But yeah, I think Caleb Williams kind of gets lost in the mix here. Just not really a standout. I mean, look, and this was part of the discussion. They were forecasting him to win the Heisman like 2 years out. They're like, oh yeah, this is the guy, and it was a lock. I'm not saying it wasn't a great year, but it wasn't like super memorable to me. I don't think there was a signature moment that year where it's just like, wow, that's like, I don't know if, and let me know in the comments if he did have a true Heisman moment. What was it? Because it's slipping my mind.
I will give you some credit there because Lamar came out of nowhere, right? Whereas for like a 3 or 4 year stretch, for like a 3 or 4 year stretch, it didn't matter who the quarterback at Oklahoma was. They were going to be in the talks for the Heisman. So I get it. I definitely understand where y'all are coming from. I just think it's fun to instigate and stir the pot. But I think from statistics, you know what? Woo-wee. All right, Drew. Let's not get us kicked off of YouTube when we're this close. I'm gonna call you later.
Okay.
Mr. Gilmore accomplished that feat less than an hour ago. I'll meet you in the parking lot. All right. Fuck it. Move on. I'm outvoted. Let's move on to the next grouping.
It's not about vote or rank. Everybody has their own opinion. Let us know in the comments.
Yes, please.
Kyler Murray,
Someone,
Lamar Jackson.
Please back me up. Man was a first-round pick in the MLB and the NFL.
Yeah, he's a hell of an athlete.
Hell.
He's an athlete.
Do you want to discuss wins above replacement next?
Brandon, who's the next grouping?
Yeah.
I think y'all are gonna like this one.
Oh God.
I think y'all are gonna like this one. I'd like to call this one White Boy Summer.
Ooh.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus.
You ready?
Okay.
I'll say the names. Drew, you get off on the stats. Me and Noah will talk a little shot.
Sounds good. Thank
We'll
you.
get around to it. Ready?
Yep.
Joe Burrow,
Hold on.
Baker Mayfield,
Ooh.
Johnny Manziel.
Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield, Johnny Manziel. Damn, bro. This is a good one.
You said Joe
Fuck.
Burrow, Johnny Manziel, and who's the last one?
Baker.
Oh,
A lot of talent in
a lot of talent.
in that grouping. I feel like you have to pick a lane and stick to it on this because I feel like I feel like you could make an argument for any of these guys.
This might be, honestly, I could see us going like 1, 2, 3, like each one of us having a different opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, y'all please talk
Shit.
shop. I'm still Googling.
Okay, I think I can go first. I don't even need to see the stats.
Go for it.
I don't even need to see the stats.
This
biased.
is I
feel.
yeah, I'm biased. It pains me to like turn these other two guys away because damn, this
Sorry,
is
I'm looking at some of these statistics. Oh my god.
yeah,
Please keep
this
going.
is difficult decision. Now let's throw it back to the criteria that we were given. You were taking this player at the peak of their college football abilities for one season only, no matter whether or not they were a senior or a freshman. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
The best they ever were.
The best they ever were.
The peak of
You
their
get 'em-
college career.
1 year. Okay.
And
Yeah.
are we looking at off the field antics or strictly on the field
You can-
production? Because that is that's a factor.
In this case, I think it has to play into it. If you're building a team around a guy and you're handpicking him, I think you're gonna have that come into play. You know?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Okay.
All right.
If that's the
I
case,
see the angle there.
Yeah.
I see the angle.
I'm a bit more steadfast in my decision here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've said it once and I'll say it again. The season Joe Burrow had in 2019 is the greatest season I've ever seen from a quarterback. Like, yes, the team around him loaded. Like NFL guys at every position. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, just to name a few. Like, I'm not going to sit. I could sit here for another 40 minutes.
You could literally go on for 20 more guys.
Exactly.
And you would still have people to spare. So carry on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, all of that aside, that is the most possessed I've ever seen a quarterback play. And, like, it might just be the kind of, like, football viewer I am. I respect the fuck out of a team that'll go out there and sling the rock, regardless of, the strength of the team against them, because they played some good defenses that season. They played Georgia, they played Bama, just to name a couple. Clemson always has a good defense. And they still threw the ball. They stuck to their identity of slinging the rock down the field, throwing it to Chase and Jefferson, and they went 15-0 and won a title. So, to me, I'm taking Burrow just because I don't have to worry about throwing. I mean, looking at Baker and looking at Manziel, Baker much more than Manziel, Baker also was kind of in that echelon where he could make pretty much any throw on the field against a college defense. But it's more of a question mark with his off the field stuff because like the groin grab against Kansas, you remember that? That was as badass as that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Burrow's a sure thing.
Are y'all
Let's hear
ready?
Let's hear Joe Burrow stats.
Yeah, I was about to
wanna
say.
hear.
I want to save Joe Burrow's stats for last.
I think
if,
that's
if
fitting.
that's okay
I think
with
that's
you.
fitting. Yep.
All right, so let me start with the odd man out here. Let's go to the Big 12. Now the SEC, but let's go to the Big 12. Baker Mayfield, just a little background on the kid. He is Oklahoma's 6th Heisman Trophy winner. So let's see. His actual stats. Baker Mayfield saved his best season for last, throwing for 4,340 yards with 41 touchdowns and just 5 picks, while leading the Sooners to a 12-1 record and a berth in the college football playoff. He holds the record for the NCAA record for passing efficiency with a passer. That's not a passer rating. Isn't the max of passer rating 123.8 or something like that?
In college, it's different. You
Okay.
can go
Yeah.
way
So
further.
he holds the record for passing efficiency at 203.76. He is the first senior to win the trophy since 2006. All right, so now on to Johnny Football. Johnny Football, as most people are aware, is the first and only freshman to win the Heisman. He threw for 3,400 yards and 24 touchdowns while adding 1,200 yards and 19 rushing touchdowns. The key game, as most of you are aware, in his Heisman resume came when he beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, 29-24, totaling almost 350 yards of offense, while just being a man possessed. And then last but not least, we have Joseph Burrow. In 2019, he holds the LSU record of passing yards and touchdowns, and also tied the Heisman record for touchdowns with 4,715 yards, 48 passing touchdowns, 289 rushing yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns. He accounted for 5,004 total yards of offense with a school record, while his completion percentage was almost 78%. It was at 77.9. He is the highest completion percentage in Heisman history. And not only did he win the Heisman, he also won AP Player of the Year, the Walter Camp Award, the Maxwell Award, the Davey O'Brien, the Johnny Unitas, so on and so forth. He also beat the shit out of Oklahoma 63-28 and beat the absolute dog out of Clemson 42-24. In those games, he combined for 956 yards, 12 touchdowns, and went 60 for 88 while scoring 2 rushing touchdowns. Statistically speaking, this isn't a conversation. This is not a conversation. But like Noah said,
However,
he had arguably the most talented offense ever assembled on the same team at the same time. I mean, you've got two, at the moment, you've got 2 potentially Hall of Fame wide receivers that he was throwing to. If he wins a Super Bowl or 2, he's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback himself. He had a very solid offensive line. He had a stable of running backs. He had an offensive coordinator who knew what the hell he was doing. And the defense wasn't a slouch, but the defense didn't really need to do anything because Joe Burrow accounted for over 5,000 yards of offense. I really feel bad for Baker Mayfield in this grouping because he is grouped with probably, the best performance in a single season that we have seen in our lifetime and the most electric player that we have ever seen in our lifetime. I hate to put Baker in third, but I think you got to. That's my opinion. That's my opinion.
It's not ridiculous. It's not ridiculous to say that.
Not ridiculous to say that. Yeah, man. Fuck. Actually, I don't know, man. I don't know because Baker. I think Baker actually might be a good blend between Joe Burrow and Johnny Manziel. Because you have the statistics and the capabilities of Joe Burrow with some of the attitude of Johnny Manziel. So I could definitely see if someone in this call decided to go middle of the road and go with Baker Mayfield. However, I know that all of us watch Johnny Manziel play football. And I know that all of us watch Joe Burrow play football and just feel the inevitability that is Joe Burrow in the 2019 LSU offense. It's hard to pick against Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Because, like Noah said, he's the safe choice, both statistically and off the field antics. I don't know. Brandon, I feel like I've done a lot of talking. Noah said his piece. What do you got, man? I'm not ready to make a decision yet.
It's tough. It's really tough. Baker being in third is kind of crazy, even in that conversation, because he had a phenomenal season.
Great season.
He's a couple overtimes away from playing in the national championship that year, right? He led that team. They were dominant that year.
Yep.
But just the status of Joe Burrow and Johnny Manziel, respectively, it's like folk stories. It's they're already both immortalized when you talk about.
You have no idea how Tim Duncan was.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to be saying that about Johnny Manziel because even with all the off-field stuff, even with everything that was going on behind the scenes, if you watch the Netflix documentary, it was some crazy shit, right?
Yeah.
He was maybe the most electric, for a year or two there, the most electric college football player we've ever seen. I'm just talking about pure playmaking ability. Some of the things that he pulled off should not be possible in college football at that level of play.
Yeah.
Making people look silly like that.
Yeah.
However, like y'all said, going to sound like a broken record here, but I don't know how you don't take Joe Burrow if we're talking that one season at its peak. That is offensively, I think maybe the best an offense can and will ever do. I mean, the stars aligned, everything was perfect, and it clicked. And it was, I mean, watching that, I'll tell my kids about that. I mean, watching that season, it's unbelievable, really. And I mean, if you're talking about, you know, a guy who you want to pick to build a team around, you know, he's, like we were saying before, he was a little older. I think he might have been 22 when he won the award. And he showed what he was capable of with those weapons. I don't think I can bring myself to pick against him. But that's no flack to either of these other guys.
Joe Burrow
because,
is 27.
And he's been in the league, what's that now? Won the Natty in 2019, going into 2020. So that'd be, 4 years ago now?
Yep. So he was 23.
Yep.
Yep.
So, I mean, in this case, being older is not hurting the argument, I don't think.
How old is
I think
Baker
it's helping
Mayfield?
in my case. So, I don't know, man. Baker and Johnny are obviously
Baker's
incredible.
29,
but,
by the way.
yeah.
Damn, he's
I don't
already
know
29.
how you pick against Burrow here. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
See, I think because in the conversations we had earlier, I'm thinking back to the Cam Newton discussion, right? The reason that it was definitely Cam Newton, and we all agreed on Cam Newton, was because he didn't really have like the offensive weapons around him. But I just feel like I don't feel like the logic is translating over to this grouping. I think it's
Not really.
No.
I mean, because you can make that argument with Lamar a little bit, but I mean, you're talking about Baker and Johnny had weapons. I mean,
Johnny
weapons.
had Mike Evans. Let's
okay,
let's-
that's valid. That is valid. But even so, compared to that LSU offense, yes,
There's
when you're
nothing
talking about a team
comparing.
that had filled with NFL
Yeah.
talent,
Yeah.
I mean,
But Johnny
Oklahoma-
had one guy.
Oklahoma had some dogs, man. CeeDee Lamb,
I was about to say,
Mark
wasn't CeeDee Lamb on
Andrews.
that team? Yeah.
yeah.
Who else?
So I
Hollywood
think
Brown. Yeah.
if you're looking at strictly the individual, I think out of this grouping, I think what Johnny Manziel was able to do with Texas A&M and that offense, I think as far as like being a one-man show, I think he's better than the other two. However, damn, am I talking myself into this right now?
Do it. We need variability.
Fuck.
Do it.
I honestly might go Baker, dog. Like,
Split the difference.
I might-
You got
I
the
might-
attitude with the play.
the attitude with the play, because don't get me wrong, that Oklahoma team was loaded with the names that Noah just rattled off, but it's still not that 2019 offense. Now, if this conversation was pick an offense, it would be the 2019 LSU offense by 8 miles, like 110%. That's definitely where I'm going. Not a doubt in my mind. However, I mean, yes, you got to have the right quarterback in that situation to make the right reads, to get rid of the ball, to have the arm talent, to do X, Y, and Z. However, I mean, you take Gunnar Stockton right now and you put him on the 2019 LSU offense, probably going to throw for at least 3,500 yards and 40 touchdowns, right? Just because you're throwing to arguably the best wide receiver core of all time in college football. And if you're looking at Baker, I don't know, guys. Like, I feel like I'm just saying this just to say this. It's hard to go against Burrow. It's really, really hard. I don't know. I might flip a coin, honestly. A quarter or something?
Do it. We'll send
Fuck
it
it.
off on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll send it off on that.
Yeah. Hey Siri, flip a coin.
What's heads and tails?
Who cares? It's heads. It's Joe Burrow. All right.
Oh,
All right. There you have it.
there you go. There you have
There
it.
it is. That's the definitive
that's the
answer.
correct objective decision.
Yep.
Oh,
man.
my gosh.
No, that was fun. I love the idea. Shout out to Film Stocked again. I like it a lot. Let us know if you want to see any other groupings. I think we hit a lot of the big players here, but there's still some other names. I do like doing this though with people that have actually like watched.
Yeah,
I couldn't go back
that
much
last
further.
grouping was a lot more difficult than I thought going into it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great.
Yeah, I mean,
Good job, Brandon. Good job.
thank you. No, I knew putting together that one that'd be very interesting. But let us know in the comments what you think about that one. I think that's the most polarizing out of them all, potentially. So yeah, if you're still watching, thank you for sticking around. Let us know in the comments who you would pick out of each of these groupings to build your team around. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let us know any other ideas you want to see this offseason. We're coming up on conference previews very, very soon, gearing up for the regular season. Very excited. So if there's anything in that regard that you want to see any team specifically, please do let us know. But yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.